Hello everyone, it's Rafael Gutierrez, Dr. Karate. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do two things. The first is I'm just going to give you a little quick review of the new book, Itosu, the Man, the Master, and the Myth. There's actually a lot of great things that I did like about the book, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The other thing I'm going to talk about is how to look at numbers as they're presented in science. And right now we have a lot of great things for education, not so great for a lot of people's health, but we have a lot of great numbers that we can actually look at. So I'm going to mention those first. But first, let's deal with Uncle Itosu's The Man, Master, and Myth. It is a biography, and it's really well done. It's by Thomas Feldmann, and one of the nice things about it is he does give you a lot of references for where he got his information. Now, a lot of the books are available, pretty easily available everywhere. He did do a couple interviews with different people, but one of the big things pretty much one of the big things about it is he did cite where he got stuff, and he does mention how a lot of the information that we have on Itosu is second or third hand knowledge. It's pretty much stories that were passed on orally. Now, it is good to actually hear those stories, especially if they can actually be confirmed some other way. So, for instance, if we could, some of the stuff that they talk about that he did, could we actually look at the biology, the ability of people, and say, yes, this did happen, or no, it didn't. And that's actually one of the nice things about having the stories. The thing he actually even points out is a lot of times stories are exaggerated. They're not necessarily a exact thing of what happened. And so we sometimes have to take these with a grain of salt. But the nice thing about the book is well organized. It actually does give you a lot of the information about Itosu, and he does mention, again, this is oral tradition. This is what we know because of some other reason. This is third generation knowledge. He tells us all that. Now, the one thing that is, like I said, I really enjoyed the book. I actually would recommend it for anyone who is interested in Itosu. The only thing my only complaint about the book was most of the information is found in other sources. He actually does organize it, and that's actually the nice thing. You want to know about Itosu, and you don't want to deal with much else, this is actually the book for you. If you're expecting something new, well, like the author says, a lot of the new information we haven't been able to get to because, well, the gentleman passed away over 100 years ago. Not much we can actually talk about that would be new. One of the big things that does happen is every so often people try to find a picture of Itosu, but we always end up finding out that, well, the picture that was supposed to be Itosu is someone else. And he does mention that, and he mentions a lot of the sites. Really a great book to have in your collection. It is on mine. I'm actually putting it over here. And that is, like I said, it's something to really look at. I will mention I don't get anything for reviewing the books, except for the fact that I enjoy the book, so I figure some of you may. Now, about numbers. Anyone who's watched my videos knows that I tend to look at CDC, hospital exit data to look at injuries. And right now, we actually can see a lot of different things that are coming up in news. The problem with a lot of these numbers is people don't understand them because they sound big, but we're not really looking at or comparing it to anything else. Let's talk about one of the first things that recently happened with the COVID vaccination. There was a reported that I think it was 6 women developed clots after taking the COVID vaccine. Well, it sounds like a lot. 6 women actually ended up developing blood clots in their leg because of COVID vaccines. We don't know anything other than 6 women and they've had the COVID vaccine. Now, we do know that there have been over, I think it's 400 million people given the vaccine today. And so for 6 million, for 6 people to have it, when you have over 300 or 400 million, it really is a small number. And what you have to look at is how many women develop blood clots who didn't get the vaccine. So in the past, what are the incidents of blood clots? And what we do see is we do see another number. More recently, and this is the numbers that I actually looked at more, is there's a talk about people getting myocarditis or pericarditis. These are inflammations of either the heart muscle or the sac around the heart, which they've said may be linked to the COVID vaccine, meaning there are people who got the COVID vaccine who also got myocarditis or pericarditis. The things that I actually found is they've said that there's about 1,200 people who ended up getting myocarditis or pericarditis after the COVID vaccine. Again, that sounds like a big number until you realize that actually I'm looking at the number now, there were 300 million COVID vaccines given. So out of 300 million, you're talking about 1,200. We don't know if those cases of COVID, of pericarditis were just because of COVID vaccine or if there were other factors. All we know is that they got the COVID vaccine and they got pericarditis. Again, we actually do have to look at what the incidence of pericarditis is in the normal population. And what I found is that there are roughly 1 in 100,000 children will develop pericarditis. So out of every 100,000 children, one will develop some sort of pericarditis or myocarditis. This, by the way, I actually found in the Myocarditis Foundation. They have a website. You can actually look at the numbers if you want. And so what we're actually comparing is 1 in every 100,000 children have pericarditis versus 1 in every 1,200 out of every 300 million. In essence, it comes out to 4 out of every million end up having some sort of pericarditis. When you actually compare those numbers, you actually see a decreased incidence of pericarditis in people who have the COVID vaccine. Now, maybe some people got it later, so maybe some people. But when we actually start looking at the incidences, the numbers seem not necessarily to change that much. Now, am I saying that the COVID vaccine did not cause pericarditis or endocarditis or myocarditis? No, all I'm saying is when you look at the numbers, they're actually a lot smaller than people think. I mean, like I said, when you hear 1,000 people had myocarditis, well, it sounds like a lot. But when you compare it, 1,000 people out of 300 million, and the normal population will have 1 in 100,000, then the numbers tend to show you something. It is a rare complication. And a lot of, I think all the people who have had myocarditis, especially children, have recovered. So it's a milder form. It's something to recover. If we look at the incidence of COVID, we have other aspects that I'm not going to deal with. So those are actually things that you need to balance out. Now, a lot of times, a lot of us actually have a martial arts school, a dojo, or we teach kids on the side. And we may be asking, should we get vaccinated? What should we do? And one of the big things I will tell you is that's actually a choice you have to make for yourself. I can actually tell you what is recommended by this American Medical Association, American Association of the American Academy of Pediatrics, immunologists, and what you see is these professional organizations, which most of them try to be non-political. They just try to give you the information as what they, as an organization, have come up to a consensus. They tell you we should all be getting the COVID vaccine unless we have other factors, and that it is safe. Now, again, like I said, when you hear a couple of numbers, you have to put them in perspective. And that's one of the things you have to choose. Now, when we're dealing with infectious diseases, there are some people who are expecting, because of the drop in vaccination rates in the U.S., that we are going to see another wave come in. We'll probably start somewhere late summer. Probably by fall, we may be able to see numbers come up. It doesn't mean we will. It's just a possibility, probability. Especially as the new Delta strain came out, and we're already starting to see its numbers increase. And we are seeing it increase, especially in states that have low vaccination rates. Now, what this means to you? Well, if you're going to be teaching kids and young adults, it's a good idea for you to get the vaccine. It's also a good idea for you to talk to the parents. Tell them, look, there are people who are expecting a new wave of COVID to come, and the people who are going to be most affected are going to be people who do not have the vaccine. If you're one of the people who decides, look, I'm not going to take a vaccine, you may want to actually take certain precautions to make sure you don't get it. Again, the masks are one of the big things that happens. Basic hygiene is actually one of the big things, which most of the things are things that you should follow all the time. Wash your clothes, wash your hands. Really try not, if you decide not to have the vaccine, probably shaking and grappling, not the best choice of exercises to do. But again, it's something you have to choose for yourself or for your child. If you do own a dojo or a martial arts studio of any kind, it's a good idea to get the information to make sure that you don't get an outbreak in your school or in your community. I hope this makes sense, and you'll have a nice day.